Good morning. We haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet. I'm Patrick. I'm the pastor here at Evergreen Presbyterian Church. My voice sounds a little different. It's not a thing I'm trying out. I lost it yelling at the refs last night at the 901 game. But it'll come back, or not. It sounds kind of cool. Maybe it'll stay. Usually Latifa Newbill, our director of connection design, is the one who gets the joy of welcoming folks. She is out of town with a fun family event this weekend. She left a few days ago. So obviously we'll hold her in prayer. She travels, but also she did a great job of leaving me some really good detailed directions and templates for the bulletin and for some of the online stuff. So that is a thank you to Latifa for all that. And also I totally dropped the ball on the one that went out this morning. So if it didn't look finished, that is not her fault. That is your pastor's fault. And I apologize for that. As some of you may have seen or can tell, this is our first Sunday where we are having masks optional for those who are vaccinated. And if you are not vaccinated, we do ask that you continue to wear a mask. This is a decision of the session, which if you're new to the Presbyterian church, that's our church council. That's members of this congregation that make those decisions. So if you have any concerns about that or any questions about that and our COVID precautions moving forward, please feel free to reach out to any of them. If you're currently serving on session, would you just raise your hand so folks know who they can talk to? Or you can always talk to me, email me, give me a call, find me after worship. If you have any of those concerns, we'll be happy to listen to any of those you've got. Millennial Small Group, our Millennial Small Group meets on Sunday afternoons. We're not going to be meeting today with a lot of folks traveling, and then there's this thing with music, some festival. That's happening, so we'll resume next Sunday at 1:30. So we'll get some details out to those folks in the coming days. If you are interested in choir, even if you've never sang in choir before, talk to this person. This is Jim Cornford, our director of music ministries, at least for a couple more months. So if you want to be a part of this last choir cycle, talk to Jim and come here Wednesday night, this coming Wednesday, next week at
6 p.m.
6 p.m. in this space. Anything I'm missing?
Y'all come sing.
Yeah.
I love it. We do have communion today. So those joining on Zoom, if you wish to partake of communion, make sure you grab something to use as the elements so that you can join us in that celebration. This is a really, 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 really exciting day. And I'm going to try not to talk too much about these folks so that you get to do a lot of listening to them. We have some visitors in our midst that are here to visit Evergreen and to help be a part of leading worship. One of the main folks is Liv Thomas. Liv, would you please raise your hand? Sing a lot of her. Yeah. Liv comes to us from Vanderbilt Divinity School. She's actually got some friends from Nashville and classmates, and I'll talk about them in just a sec. But Liv is what's called under care of Evergreen, as in she's a member of Evergreen. And when she started to feel this call to go into vocational ministry and enter Vanderbilt Divinity School, what we get to do as her home church is walk with her through this process and support her and love on her. And give her this space where she can come and lead worship and get to try out some things, as well as hear her powerful words of comfort and challenge for us. She really has a unique ability, knowing Evergreen, but also being outside of Evergreen this season of life to really offer us some wonderful words. So we're so grateful that Liv is here with us today. She brings with her a classmate and also a friend of mine, NCK's from Birmingham, Peyton Chandler. Is also Vanderbilt Divinity School, grew up in Birmingham and UAB alum, and then you started your journey at Beeson before ending up at before ending up at Vanderbilt Divinity. So really excited to have Peyton in our midst as well. And then we've got, I've not had the pleasure of meeting them yet, Carly and Charlotte, is that right? Yes. And Carly is Liv's fiance, and Charlie's another classmate, right? With Peyton and Liv. Welcome. I'm really glad you're here. So if you couldn't tell, there's a reception for these folks after worship, so please stick around for the reception. Also, you can see my beautiful handmade sign, a little table where we're putting together some gift bags for UKirk students. We've got a few UKirk students that are here with us, and they're about to go through finals or are going through finals at Rhodes, University of Memphis. So we're gonna put together some bags. Y'all, if you play a card trick, you can get a bag now before you go to your like end of the year thing. And I'm gonna drop them off at the Presbyterian house tomorrow. You can get one then, but just if you want more than one. So please like take some time to fill. There are about 20 bags we can fill with some stuff, write a personal note, all that, and show some love to some of these UKirk students as they go through finals. The joy that is. Okay, I'm done talking. I'm gonna invite Kelly to come up here and give us a microphone.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm Kelly Baker. I'm a member of Evergreen and also one of our co-delegates for MICA, which is the Memphis Interfaith Coalition for Action and Hope. I wanted to talk to you a little bit this morning during our MICA moment about voting in the upcoming May 3rd local election. So this election is particularly important, being that it's local, because that's going to mean that you have more of a voice, but it also means that the results and the decisions made as a result of this election are going to be more immediate. The best definition of privilege that I've heard is that privilege is when you don't have to consider something or even think about it. So like not having to consider whether you have any food in your refrigerator when you get home, or whether you're going to have reliable transportation to church on Sunday, or maybe in the case of an election, maybe you don't have to worry about how it turns out because the DA's harsher sentences on Black people won't directly affect you in your white neighborhood. So what I want to do during this MICA moment is encourage all of us to be mindful this voting season and act like the results of this election will affect us, all of us. Because the truth is that even if they don't affect you immediately, directly, you undoubtedly have a neighbor in Memphis that they could be life-changing for. So please make the time to vote by May 3rd. Thank you.
Tuesday, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, if you would, please rise in body or in spirit and join me in our call and response, bringing the light as it's printed in your bulletins. We are hurting and we are here. And here we will lament the suffering in our world, the anguish in our communities, the hurt in our midst, the tears in our eyes. We will cry out with hearts broken for the world. Yes, we are hurting and we are here. We are weary and we are here. And here we will resist the bitterness and brokenness of our world, the systems that hold us captive, those designed to suppress and subdue. We will search for the strength to journey forward with feet walking for justice. Yes, we are weary and we are here. We are longing and we are here. And here we will dare to tell our stories. We will dare to hope, to dream that all might be made new. Even in our pain, we will say to the world, I love you. Yes, we are longing and we are here.
Please join us in our opening hymn, number 301, Let Us Build a House.
Let us build a house where none can dwell and all can safely live. Our gates where saints and children
morning, Evergreen. Would you join me in reading together the flourish language? Flourish, alone, together. We practice wholehearted life, alone and together. Evergreen is an open and affirming faith community, rooted in the way of Jesus. We grow through spiritual practices that nourish the individual and cultivate a more compassionate world. While remaining seated, let us pass each other a moment of peace, waving, smiling, peace signs. Good morning, good morning.
Peace. Let us break bread together on Let us break bread together When I fall on my knees with my face on the rising sun, oh, God, mercy on
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning. So I was over there playing with my new friend Ellis. Ellis said he's just gonna stay over there at the crayons, so he's gonna watch those. It's okay. So I need, let's see, 4 volunteers. I'm gonna pick you if you don't. 1, 2, come up. You guys come up. I need 2 more. Susan. There we go. You guys clap it up for my volunteers.
We're all recovering from Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh, yes. 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock. Don't mind you, still going. So guys, I was gonna ask the kids, you know, has there ever been a time that they didn't know whether or not to do something? All right, has there ever been a time you guys didn't know whether or not to do something? Like maybe you didn't know whether you were supposed to wear your Grizzly shirt today, right? Well, that was a kid, you were supposed to wear your Grizzly shirt because it's Grizzly, right? But exactly. But has there ever been a time that you guys didn't know whether or not to do something? And if so, do you mind sharing one of you guys?
I didn't know whether or not to do the school program I'm doing because it was going to move me and Kelly across the country like 3 separate times.
So you didn't know whether or not to do the school program. So how did you make the decision, if you made the decision, and did you consult with someone?
Consulted with Kelly a lot.
Got you. He said he consulted with Kelly a lot. So as a kid, now obviously the kids wouldn't, they wouldn't be trying to figure out if they want their school program or not, right? But there will be a time where they will try to obey their parents, right? And for us, isn't there maybe like a small voice in our head sometimes that tells us when to do something, whether to do the right thing, whether to do the wrong thing? Maybe I should blow the horn at this person because they just cut me off on the highway. Or maybe I shouldn't buy tickets to the game tonight because I know I need to pay my rent next week or something like that. Right? So I want to see how well you guys pay attention to that voice, or how well you guys just pay attention to the signs that are around. So we're gonna play Simon Says. Is that okay? All right. So I hope you guys know how to play Simon Says, because you do not move without Simon, okay? Are you ready? Simon says, put your hands in the air. Put your hands down. I got this in there. You guys clap it up for it, clap it up for it. Simon says, put your hands down. Simon says, take one step to the right. Simon says, take one step to the left. 2 hops one time. Okay. Right. That's how we're gonna do it. Simon says, bark like a dog. Simon says, wave your hands in the air. Okay. Simon says, turn around. Susan, you didn't have to keep waving your hands. Okay. Simon says, put your hands down. Okay. You guys did a good job of playing. Clap it up, guys. Clap it up. You guys can have a seat. So basically, guys, as we all know, we are kids at heart, right? But there is a voice that is either in our heads, or maybe we go somewhere to listen to this voice, or maybe we meditate. For me, I often go to the river and I sit at the river and I listen to whatever God wants to tell me. So all I'm saying is listen to that voice that's in your head, or listen to whoever is trying to tell you good things. If it's someone trying to tell you some bad things, you may need to rethink your friendship or relationship with that person, right? Keep good people around you, because our 5 closest friends are a reflection of us. But listen to your good people and listen to their voice, y'all. I love y'all. Go Grizz!
Well, friends, as we prepare to approach a time of silence, I would invite everyone to assume whatever posture you are most comfortable with when we want to do something like approach silence. Might be sitting in your chair, maybe sitting on the floor, maybe laying prostrate, face down on the floor, whatever you feel most comfortable, as we try to get a couple minutes of silence together. You do not have to be good, writes celebrated New England poet Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Words so near to my own heart, words that perhaps might find us this morning as we approach our softness, that we might become still and achieve together a short period of silence. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Soft has been a question, a curse, a difficult call upon my life. Nothing matters anymore, so I will cry all of my tears and say all of my words. Soft boy, ashamed, disregarded, forgotten. Violent expectations, those that suffocate, hard, but soft, save me. Permission to depart from impossible attempts at goodness, at correctness. Permission to reject the molds thrust upon me. Permission to reject as to embrace. Permission to hug my heart, to embrace my body, that soft animal. Permission to shout my shouts, to cry my tears. Permission to love and to lose and to love better. Permission to be still in this soft body of mine, this soft body of ours. What of this body? Only that in soft company I will spring about, treading softly upon the ground, leaving only the soft, subtle evidence of my place in the family of things. And so may we consider that soft animal of our body. What are her fears? What does he long for? What do they love? In following that soft animal, may we embrace softness, that we might approach stillness, to resist the noise in our minds, the weight in our hearts. May we simply be here and now, soft, still, safe, here together in this silent, soft company. Thank you all. I'd like to invite us now to our first reading, also from Mary Oliver. I happened to be standing. I don't know where prayers go or what they do. Do cats pray while they sleep, half asleep in the sun? Does the possum pray as it crosses the street? Sunflowers, the old black oak growing older every year. I know I can walk through the world along the shore or under the trees with my mind filled with things of little importance and full self-attendance, a condition I can't really call being alive. Is a prayer a gift or a petition, or does it matter? The sunflowers blaze, maybe that's their way. Maybe the cats are sound asleep, maybe not. While I was thinking this, I happened to be standing just outside my door with my notebook open, which is the way I begin every morning. Then a wren in the privet began to sing. He was positively drenched in enthusiasm. I don't know why, and yet, why not? I wouldn't persuade you from whatever you believe or whatever you don't. that is your business. But I thought of the wrens singing. What could this be if it isn't a prayer? So I just listened, my pen in the air.
And our second sacred reading of today is one of my favorite poems of all time. This is really just a poetry slam if you haven't picked up on that. This poem is called To the Fig Tree on 9th and Christian, and it's by Ross Gay. Here's how it goes. Tumbling through the city in my mind without once looking up, the racket and the lug work, probably rehearsing some silly thing I said or did, some crime or other. The city, they say, is a lonely place. Until yes, the sound of sweeping, and a woman, yes, with a broom. Beneath which you are now, too, the canopy of a fig. Its arms pulling the September sun to it, and she has a hose too, and she works hard, rinsing and scrubbing the walk, lest some poor sod slip on the silk of a fig and break his hip, and not probably reach over to gobble up the perpetrator. The light catches the veins in her hands. When I ask about the tree, they flutter in the air. And she says, take as much as you can. Help me. So I load my pockets and my mouth, and she points to the stepladder on the wall to mean more. But I was without a sack, so my meager plunder would have to suffice. And an old woman who gravity was pulling into the earth, loosed one from a low slung branch. And its eye wept like hers, which she dabbed with a kerchief as she cleaved the fig with what remained of her teeth. And soon there were 8 or 9 people gathered beneath the tree, looking into it like a constellation, pointing, do you see it? And I am tall and so good for these things. And a bald man even told me so when I grabbed 3 or 4 for him, reaching into the giddy throngs of yellow jackets, sugar-stoned, which he only pointed to smiling and rubbing his stomach. I mean, he was really rubbing his belly, like there was a baby in there. It was hot. His head shone while he offered recipes to the group using words which I couldn't understand. Besides, I was a little tipsy on the dance of the velvety heart rolling in my mouth, pulling me down, down, down into the oldest countries of my body, where I ate my first fig from the hand of a man who escaped his country by swimming through the night, and maybe never said more than 5 words to me at once, but gave me figs. And a man on his way to work hops twice to reach at last his fig, which he smiles at and calls baby. Come here, baby, he says, and blows a kiss to the tree, which everyone knows cannot grow this far north, being Mediterranean and favoring the rocky, sun-baked soils of Jordan and Sicily. But no one told the fig tree or the immigrants there is a way. The fig tree grows and grows at it once. It seems to hold us. Yes, I am anthropomorphizing. I have twice in the last 30 seconds. Rubbed my sweaty forearm into someone else's sweaty shoulder. Gleeful eating out of each other's hands on Christian Street in Philadelphia, a city like most which has murdered its own people. This is true. We are feeding each other from a tree at the corner of Christian and Night. Strangers, maybe never again. Amen, I think. Evergreen, it is good to be home. Let me tell you. As you've heard, my name is Liv, and I'm delighted to be back here with you all. Back in this place that feels so familiar and comforting. I want to thank you for the welcome back, for the welcome you've extended my chosen family. And for those of you that I'm meeting for the first time, it is my deepest hope that you too have felt embraced by this place, by these people. Y'all, I am coming to you pretty worn ragged this morning. In many ways, it's been a hard semester. It's finals. And on Thursday afternoon, I got some really hard news. A friend of mine from Baltimore died on Thursday. Someone that I love very dearly. Her name was Precious. I am really heartbroken, to be honest. I spent most of the past couple of days in bed, feeling this hole in my chest and missing my friend. So that's where I am. I must confess that forever operative in me is this voice telling me that I should better just simplify all this and present before you only as happy, only as overjoyed to be among you, as only wiser and more together than the last time we worshiped together in this room. But it's not so simple, is it? I am overjoyed to be with you all, and I'm sad. As Peyton led us during the bringing in the light, it's not that I'm sad, but I'm here. It's that I'm sad and I'm here. The sermon you'll hear today is not the sermon I would have delivered if Precious was still alive. And if it's all right with y'all, I'm going to tell you about my friend Precious for about 12 minutes or so. And I think everything that I'd intended to share originally and much more will come through in telling you about her. Here we go. I think that when we talk about those that we have loved who have died, we sort of disrupt the time and space continuum. We call those people right back into being with us. I picture it as a sort of willful act of resistance, where we put our bodies within the folds of time and peel them apart, holding space for whomever needs to step forth. I think of it as a disruption of this Western conception of time, that it marches linearly forward, one event followed by another, and then sequentially by another. So for a couple minutes, let's be time travelers together. Let's take a trip to Baltimore, Baltic, as some people call it, and convene with Precious. Let's visit her garden, and let's hear what her story has to tell us about lament and the ever elusive promise of hope. First, here we are. Let's get a sense of where we've landed. We are in North Baltimore in a neighborhood called Woodburn McCabe. It's a neighborhood of about 400 homes, and it's a place that bears the visible scars of the profoundly racist practice of redlining. When folks looking to purchase a home were denied mortgages if they sought to buy a home in a neighborhood that banks deemed undesirable. There are actual maps from the 1930s and 40s with actual red lines that tell this story. The designations moved from green, best, where white folks lived, to blue, still desirable, to yellow, declining, to red, hazardous. The neighborhoods where Black people lived and were trying to own homes. Woodburn McCabe was coded red. In the modern day, it's designated as a food desert, meaning that there are no full-service grocery stores within a mile. Most folks get their groceries from dollar stores and corner stores. The Woodburn McCabe community has a high rate of violence and incarceration, particularly as they relate to the sale and use of drugs. In the summers, it's actually about 7 or 8 degrees hotter in this area than in others, where it's more shaded, where there were more trees planted back in the day. And the wild thing about redlining, especially in Baltimore, is how intensely different people's worlds are who live only a quarter mile away. I used to lead this exercise for visitors who came to this organization that I worked for in Baltimore. We would drag youth visiting from all over the country, Richmond, Raleigh, Shepherdstown, first to visit Woodburn McCabe and ask them what they noticed. We'd get out of the car and I'd say, what do you feel? What do you hear? What do you smell? People would say in the Woodburn McCabe neighborhood that they heard cars zooming by. They smelled the exhaust from the cars. They felt like traffic was right up against them. And then we traveled truly across the street to an affluent neighborhood called Govins, and we do the same exercise. What do you all hear? What do you smell? What do you feel on this side of the street? And the kids would say, I hear birds chirping. It's quiet. I don't hear the cars that I did. I notice signs. I notice one-way signs, meaning that cars from within the neighborhood can get out, but others on the outside cannot get in. We all pick these things up all the time, whether we know it or not, what our cities are telling us about who lives there. But what I need you to hear me say about this place that we are right now, time travelers, Woodburn McCabe, is that it had its present reality prescribed for it. The neighborhood didn't decide to be disinvested in. People, white people, many, made choices that set the course of the neighborhood in motion. Streets don't decide for themselves that they'll be a one-way street, permitting insiders to leave but blocking outsiders from entering. Now, on to the second part of our time travel. You have a partial sense of where we are, but these statistics and demographics only give us a partial sense. They don't tell us about the people that live there. They don't tell us about the souls of the people living there. People like Precious. Precious and I met through work. I worked for an organization in Baltimore that, among other things, paired visiting groups with local organizations in order to do relationship building work. Precious worked for one of those organizations, a methadone treatment facility in the Woodburn McCabe neighborhood called Glenwood Life Counseling Center, where, years prior, she'd sought treatment in her struggles with addiction. And if my mind serves me, she would have made 9 years sober before she passed. It feels that I knew Precious the moment I drove into Baltimore to get settled for my job. Everyone I met kept saying, "You've got to meet Precious." And soon I did. My coworker Mel and I stopped by her office, and we were greeted as if we'd known each other for years and years and years. At Glenwood Life, Precious served as the client advocate for those receiving treatment there at Glenwood Life. There were always people seated outside of her door, sometimes even outside of the building before it opened, hoping to get guidance from her, advice, to get her help on a community-related project, to dig around her office for a snack. She always had a couple on hand. And I found myself over at Glenwood Life quite a bit. And lucky for me, I was mostly over there to get Precious hugs and to spend time in the garden, her garden, the closest I think I've ever been to heaven. You see, years before Precious and I met one another, she'd grown tired of the view from her office's front door there at Glenwood Life. Across the street was a cracking blacktop covered in empty chip bags and soda cans. So she did what Precious always did. She talked everyone's ear off about doing something until something got done. And in the years I've known Precious, I've grown accustomed to receiving emails or seeing Facebook posts from her stating a need, always framed in the we. We need 14 bags of diapers. We need someone to come talk during Black History Month. We need 2 hands. We need a mural painted. I can only surmise the garden, the one that would replace the cracking blacktop, began the same way. We need to do something about the empty parking lot filled with trash. We deserve better. Join me. And the garden had been around for about 5 years by the time I visited it. It wasn't big. I wouldn't say it was any larger than this worship space. Really, maybe from that door to the door that we come in, pretty small. But it was dense, filled with kale and spinach, sweet potatoes, flowers, small memorials to those who addiction claimed. And what I remember most, dozens of cherry tomato plants that produced truly thousands of perfect golden yellow cherry tomatoes. There was, and I'm sure is, someone always over there in the garden, often Glenwood Life's clients, watering, weeding, sitting, listening, weeping. Not to mention the birds and the caterpillars and the butterflies, and curious neighborhood cats who people kept feeding near the garden, which Precious hated. The place I worked for brought many, many groups of people to visit this garden, mostly youth. Every single person from every single group fell for Precious and her garden. She'd invite them in and tell them her story and how the garden was the next chapter in her story. She'd make us laugh. She'd tell us stories about the magic in the garden. How she'd cry when it was time to pull the old plants out. How a tiny garden somehow made enough food to feed several neighbors. I have many vivid memories of Precious in the garden, and I could go on forever, but for the sake of our time travel, I'll tell you just one more. Precious told this great story of working in her office one day and seeing across the street a pair of kids climb over the fence of the garden. Curious as to what they were up to, she went over to check in. They were nervous to have been caught, but Precious quickly reassured them that it was all okay. She asked them what they were doing, and they told her they'd never seen a garden before, and that they wanted to see what it was all about. She taught them about every plant that was growing and sent them home with armfuls of produce. That was Precious. On to our third and final stage of time and space travel. This one brings us back into this moment. One where Precious's physical body is no longer with us. Y'all, I'm not sure that I can think of any greater act of lament, bound up in hope, than looking outside of your North Baltimore office at a parking lot the city forgot about, in a neighborhood the white people who ran the city never intended to care for, and saying, you know what? We deserve more. We deserve better. We deserve golden, sweet, hot from the sun cherry tomatoes. We deserve a place to sit and to be. Precious's founding of the garden was just as much an act of lament as it was one of hope. Looking out her window, she first needed to say, this upsets me. I don't like this. This cannot be everything there is, can it? Before she could till the soil and plant the first seeds. The dean at my divinity school says, hope is not the byproduct of a divine guarantee, and it certainly is not a dubious promise of fire insurance or a misdirected glory train. We face the tough times of our day with fresh energy and urgency that remind us that we stand on the front lines of hope. This hope is neither sentimental nor vapid. It does not give up on us. Hope refuses to believe that evil and suffering and sorrow and hatred are God's final words to us in a world that is spinning atop of war and violence. This hope believes and guides us to another way in which we are all made whole. The power of the common good shaping our lives and that of countless others on the highway to salvation. And here's the thing about parting the folds in the time and space continuum and talking about the people that you miss and telling their stories. Doing so is to participate in an act that contains hope as much as it does lament. Lament and hope are not opposites. They do not exist on either side of a continuum. Feeling one does not negate the presence of the other. One must feel lament to feel hope. Lament is not the grief stage that we pass through to finally arrive at hope. Instead, in crying out and in holding open, even if just for a moment, time and space, we make room for the lives of those we have lost, and we ask their lives to inform ours, just as I'm doing now with Precious. Their lives tell us, hopefully, something about the new thing that is unfolding. You see, it all happens at once, this lament and hope. Sometimes it's sequential, but often it's not. The hard things are happening at the same time that the good things are happening. The garden is blossoming as the crime rate in that neighborhood remains high. I'm not talking about cheap hope. Not pick yourself up already, dust yourself off, chin up, time to move on and look forward toward the future type of hope. Not to get yourself out of your lament so that you can arrive at hope. Not that type of hope. No, this lament and hope that I'm telling you about, that Precious lived, it happens all at once. There is no hope without lament. A favorite theologian of mine writes, lament bears witness to what should not be, and therefore to what should be and what will be, according to God's promises. Lament expresses our agonized awareness that this world desperately needs transformation, and that we still await God's will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. Together, lament and resistance nurture our hopes for a different world while keeping us rooted in this struggle of this one. Friends, may we remain deeply rooted in the struggle of this world. May we do so by honoring the hurt that we feel when we lose the ones that we've loved. May we choose to tell their stories. May we laugh at the jokes that they would have laughed at. May we, like Precious, plant the seeds of tomorrow's hope, not yet blossomed.
Reflect on Liv's wise words. Let's go to God with our offering. As the plates come around, if you are a visitor and you want to stay connected to the life of Evergreen, there's some connect cards that are green that are in the plates, pens. Love for you to fill one of those out, and then just leave them on the counter. There's also some extras if you don't have in the plates, some extras on the counter. Just fill them out and leave them there, and we'll make sure we keep you in the loop. Let's share a word of prayer together. God of hope, we pray that what we offer you and what we offer one another goes to your dream and your vision for this world. May all that we offer, whether it be our energy, our time, our talents, our resources, may go to human flourishing and the flourishing of your creation. In your many names we pray. Amen.
Friends, at the table, we glimpse the equalizing impact of God's wild and wonderful presence. Taste and we see the elements, the particular piece of bread, the particular grape, the body and blood of Christ, And here we are, both comforted and discomforted, believing God is with us and terrified by that prospect. Speaking with conviction, even as we marvel that we are included and that we are together in this place. Friends, we are here at this table, the table set for each of you and for me. Will you pray with me? God of love, around this table, filled with the Spirit who unites us to this particular community, we glimpse what it might mean to join with others in their particularities. Lord, stir in us a sense of wonder here at this table, a place where our desire might be met. Our desire to participate ever more deeply in the reality of the love that continues to find us in each particular moment. Lord, you know our names, our stories, our pain. We know each other's names and our stories and our pain. And as each of us have been called here by name, may we feel embraced and acknowledged for precisely who we are, for all of our particularities, for all of our hurt, for all of our beauty and our being. Amen.
On that particular night that Jesus was with his disciples in an upper room, he took a moment around that table. I'm sure there were lots of feelings of lament and hope, probably confusion, probably celebration, maybe some fear, maybe some guilt. In the midst of all of that, with his friends, Jesus took the bread. After giving thanks, he broke it. And he said, "This is the bread of heaven. This is my body broken for you. Whenever you eat of it, remember me." After they had eaten, he took the cup. And he said, "This cup is my blood shed for you. This is the new covenant. Whenever you drink of it, remember me." So friends, that is what we do. We have this holy reminder. We remember who God is, who God has been, who God will be. A God who loves us, a God who is always near to us, and a God who invites us to this table. So what we've been doing the past few times we've celebrated communion here at Evergreen is we've had these some cups with a little piece of bread and a grape. So we'll pass the baskets, one on each side, and just take the cup out if you so choose to have communion today. The bread is gluten-free, it is dairy-free, it is nut-free, so that all can partake. And this is something that Beatrix had taught me, our parish associate pastor here at Evergreen, that for some folks, maybe you're not able to chew or to swallow for some reason. There's ocular communion where the elements can, just by holding them, you can receive the celebration of communion, receive those elements. And so, and again, I invite folks on Zoom to make sure they have their elements if they so choose. Friends, let's go to God. Let's go to this moment with our hands open and ready to receive this beautiful moment of grace. Has everyone been served that wishes to be served? Friends, this is the bread of heaven and the cup of salvation for you.
Friends, let us pray. We give you thanks, O God, for this communion shared, gathered here at this table, each of us, all of our hurt, our hopes, our particularities. We have been lovingly connected to one another through this bread, this cup. We give you thanks for the outpouring of your wild and wonderful Spirit, for the gift of Christ, one who is love.
As is the theme of today's service, there is much to be joyful about, much to have hope in, and there's also much that we lament.
Oh, well. Please rise as you are able and lift your voice in our closing hymn. And then make sure, oh, Patrick, you're gonna say, but I'm on roll. Make sure you stay after the benediction and postlude for a recession, welcoming and honoring the soon one day to be Reverend Liv Thomas and her friends.
Religious altar and praise, we should receive it. We celebrate and sing our promise. And take away our soul. Eyes to have the cross, to consecrate and to help us all, and set us
Let us all go from this place and listen for the ways that God is already active in the world, the ways that lament and hope are bound up together. And next time you eat a cherry tomato, pause for a second and marvel at the wonder. Let us go.